Hi everyone, it's Lori, and today in my artistic studio, I am going to be painting this dahlia flower using tools in Photoshop. So I've already done some initial edits. So this was the before, and this was the after basic edit. So I did some masking. My three things I do to almost every flower image, I always remove distraction. So you can see I did a little cleanup on the flower, removed that little orange blob in the right corner. I darkened and opened up the shadows in the background, and then I popped the center of the flower. Now this image does not have any directional light, so I'm not going to worry about that. So now I'm ready to add some creative elements. So let's take this image, edit in Photoshop, and today I want to do some painting. Now I use the Adobe free brushes from Kyle. I'll include the link to that website so that if you want to add those free brushes to your Photoshop, you can do that. These are really fun to use, and again, they are free and they are phenomenal. So we're going to jump in. First thing I want to do is duplicate my background layer just so I have it available if I need it. Now, when you purchase these brushes, there are tons of them, and there are some that have become my favorites over the years. So today we will work with some of those. I'm gonna minimize some of these others that I have up. And I think first I'm gonna start with the watercolor brush. So I like the watercolor. There's also under special effects, there's some ones that I like. There's also seasonal ones. So they're really fun. The ones I use the most are watercolor and Impressionism. So those are definitely some fun ones to try. So let's start today with watercolor. And what I want to do is grab this 500 Giant is one that I really like to use. And once I grab that, we need to select our color. So what I want to do is grab the dropper, and I want to paint a little bit of this kind of peach color onto the flowers, this apricot color. So I'm going to grab that, and we've got now our brush has been selected. So we selected this Kyle's watercolor, and it's the big 500 Giant brush, and I want to make my opacity really, really low. So maybe we'll start at about 18%, and I'm going to keep my flow at about 50%. Now let's zoom in, and let's take the opacity up first just so I can show you. So this is how the brush, how it looks. It's a very soft brush, even at 90%. So I'm going to undo that, and let's go ahead and label our layer. This is going to be watercolor 500. I like to name the brush that I use because otherwise I won't remember, and that way we can do multiple layers for different brushes. Okay, so let's take our opacity down, maybe about 50%. And what I want to do is I am just going to paint on and enhance my flower where I want to add a little bit of that apricot color. This also will smooth out any blemishes in my flower. Now somehow I hit a different brush, so let's go back to the large brush. I don't know how I got off of it, but there we go. Make sure you're on the brush you want, and let's get that opacity back down to 50%. Sometimes if you go too fast, you click something that you don't want, right? All right, so I am just brushing this in, and then remember, with a brush, you can go over it multiple times. You can change the size of your brush as you go. So I'm just kind of adding that color where I want it. There's a little spot. I want to darken that. All right, now I don't want it to be 100% that. I want that original color in there. I'm just adding a little bit. It also softens it. Now we can turn this. This was before and after. It's very subtle. Now what I like to do is reduce the opacity of the layer. So I just want to make it look really natural. You could also try different blend modes. So of course, soft light, you could do the hard light, but I'm going to keep it on normal. You could also do overlay, but again, I'm going to keep it on normal. Now I want to duplicate this layer, And this one, I want to go and do a different brush. So let's go to the Impressionistic brushes. And I really like the Cezanne one. I like the Monet. Let's do Monet 2. There's also these blender brushes. So maybe for this one, let's try Blender 2. So let's go ahead and rename our layer Blender 2. And for this, I want to grab a different color. So let's go ahead and grab our eyedropper and let's select this darker color and add a little bit of that paint to our image. Now I'm going to take the opacity even lower and I'm just going to start and see what it does. So I can't really see that, so I'm going to take it up. There we go. I can see a little bit of that pink now if we do before and after. All right, so I'm going to undo it and I want to start and make this really, really small. So I'm going to keep the opacity where it is, but I want my brush really small. And what I'm going to do is just paint the tips, adding that color, just like it is up here on the edges. I'm going to just enhance it on these. So I'm just coming around and painting, adding a little bit of that creative element. Coming around the flower. And again, you can do as much, where you want it, but I like to just come around and just, again, enhancing with that different color. Now, if there's somewhere where you don't like it, we can go and erase it off. We had it right there, and we don't want it on that flower. You just use your erase tool and take it off. And then we can come back to our brush and maybe I put it back on in just a little bit of a softer way. Now remember, you can change your brush size, you can change your blend mode. So we could come here to our brush and we could use darken. Make that a little bit darker. And just continue to go around and adding that color and making it really, really soft. So now if we look at before and after, we've added a little bit of that. Again, our opacity is at 62%. I took it all the way up. You can see that's how we made those changes. What I like to do again is just bring that opacity down so that it's really soft. Now you could continue to duplicate. So let's do another brush, and this time let's go back up and do the, trying to think if I want to do Cezanne. Probably, let's try Monet. So let's rename this one Monet. And now let's grab a different color. Let's do this brighter yellow. Grab our brush. And you can see that's at 100%. We don't want that. So I'm going to take it down. Let me zoom in for you guys. And let's try about 50%. This is giving us a true painted look. You can see it's painting a little bit of that yellow. It is very subtle, you guys. So let me turn it on and off. If you look right in here, it's just giving us that painted look as if we did it in maybe Topaz or another program. Now, if you do not like the actual brush stroke painted like that, then I would encourage you to use a different brush. So I'm going to turn that one off. Let's go back, duplicate this layer. And for this one, let's go back up to the watercolors. And we could use this Add Paper Texture watercolor brush, which I really like. So let's rename this Watercolor Paper. And I'm going to keep our color the same. Let's take our opacity to about 50%. And this one just really smooths out things. So we're adding that yellow and we're just doing some smoothing. And so anywhere where you want a little bit more of the soft yellow, you can add this. And then I can come in and increase it. You can see how much we're doing there. Now that's at 70% flow. Let me scroll out. Now, again, if you don't like it, just grab your eraser. We could clear that off. All right, so this is with that watercolor paper. Just adding some of that yellow, and again at 40% opacity. If I take it all the way up, you'll see how much that yellow is there, but we don't want that. So we want to keep it at about 50% or even lower. So I would just continue with the brush, and you can make it larger. You just want to add a little bit of that yellow where you need it. It can just kind of help you bringing out all the colors and giving it that kind of painted, soft look. All right, so then I think for this image, I'm going to bring that opacity down a little bit lower. All right, I like the softness that we've created. Now, when you add those painting techniques, I'm going to add a transparent layer on top. Sometimes you will notice some things that need to be kind of cleaned up. So I'm going to come around and just do some additional cleanup because I don't want distractions as you're looking at this beautiful flower. So this little petal, there we go. That looks better. So I'm just going to go around because when you add paint, it will emphasize a lot of the spots in your flower. And this petal right here, so I'm first just going to try the heel tool. Just doing that cleanup all the way around it. And then the last step, I think, for this image, once I've done that, is I just want to go in and add some oil paint. So I'm going to do a stamped layer, Command-Option-Shift, and the letter E. And then I'm going to do Filter, Stylize, Oil Paint. And for oil paint, I like to keep all the brush strokes over to the right. I keep my light over to the left. Click OK. And that's going to give it a really soft look. I'll show you the before and the after, and then you can reduce the opacity. You could also mask. So sometimes I will grab the mask, grab the brush. Now I want a soft round, and I'm just going to bring back the detail in the center of the flower. Let's take that opacity up to 100%, and I'll just bring back a little bit of that detail. So now we have added our paint color. We've added a little oil paint, and if I show you that's before, and now we can go in and add all our steps that we took to get back to our final look. Hope you enjoyed this and that you will try some of these incredible brushes in Photoshop. Please click like or subscribe, and thanks so much for joining me today.